So we're 6 games into the season, and even with Steph missing the last 3 games, the Warriors are an impressive 5-1. Let's get it. The amount of jokes and ridicule Warriors fans would have been put through if they smoked this game to the Rockets, bro. You just can't lose a game that you're leading by 31 points. Now, I will say, the Rockets are an interesting matchup for the Warriors. They're young, but they have a lot of length and athleticism that can cause problems at times. That was evident in the second half, where the Rockets' full-court press bothered the Warriors' ball handlers without Steph. The Warriors were up 71-43 at halftime. That's a 28-point lead. That was as much as 31 points at one point, and they almost tricked it off.
The differences between this team and last year, just in terms of being able to recover after stumbling.
You know what Loon said, as soon as we walked in, he said last year we would have tricked that game. Yeah, because I was coming in the locker room like, hey, fellas, it's another win without Steph Curry. Didn't end the way we wanted it as far as the way it looked, but we got the result we wanted and needed. And so we'll take it. But Loon said the exact same thing. Like last year we would have smoked that game, and we 1,000% would have. So, you know, it's good to see that we can pull a game out regardless if it was going south or not. It's great that we were able to pull it out.
Looney's right. This is 100% a game they would have lost last season. But this year's Warriors team is different. And although they made it harder on themselves, they still got the end desired result. A W.
That change. Huh? What led to I don't like the Warriors. I mean, I don't know. I just want to win. It's really not bigger than that.
All right, now let's talk about Jonathan Kaminga. He had his best game of the season thus far and came up big down the stretch in overtime. It's games like this where you really need Kaminga's athleticism. Because I'm not going to lie, the Rockets looked like they were overwhelming the Warriors in the second half with their athleticism. And Kaminga was one of the only dudes offensively in the second half that could physically have his way, that could physically match the Rockets. Yes, the Warriors' three-point shooting is nice, and when they're on, it's hard to stop them. But games like this, where you got to get it out the mud, and you need somebody that can just put his head down and get to the rim and make something happen, Kaminga's your guy. Kaminga's really the only one on your team that has that downhill scoring mentality. And as an S-tier athlete with size and the ability to finish at the rim, Kaminga brings something no one else in the Warriors can. Kaminga scored 6 out of the Warriors' 8 points in OT, and he was their lifeline offensively. His rim pressure was essential. Kaminga's had a very solid 3-game stretch since moving to the bench. In his last 3 games off the bench, he's averaging 18.7 points per game, 4.3 rebounds per game, 51.4% shooting from the field, 3 for 7 from 3, 6.3 free throw attempts per game on 79%, and a cumulative plus 30 over those 3 games. Here's what Draymond had to say about Kaminga post-game.
They were great. They brought energy. They brought force. They got us on our heels. And then Jonathan Kaminga showed why he is Jonathan Kaminga. He's very important. Number one, he can match the athleticism of all those guys. A-Man, Tari, Jabbar, they are athletes, and A-Man's a freak. When you're facing guys like that, you need a JK, because not only could he go get his own, which he can, he showed down the stretch, or every time we needed a bucket, we gave him the ball, he went and got it. But like I said, from an athleticism standpoint, he's just as athletic, if not more. And so to match that physicality and athleticism was huge.
Now let's talk about Buddy Hield. Over his last 3 games, Buddy's averaging 25.3 points per game, 51% from the field, 51.5% from 3, with the Warriors winning all 3 games. I know it's early in the season, but Buddy's looking like a strong 6-man of the year candidate. I mean, he's literally the Warriors' leading scorer right now. For the season, he's averaging 22 points per game, shooting 52% from 3 and only 25 minutes played, bro. Now look, obviously, this isn't sustainable for Buddy, but he looks better than he has at any point in his career. He seems to be just now hitting his prime at age 31. And now that he's on a team that can best maximize his skills as a shooter, we're starting to see a level from Buddy that we've never seen before. Here's what Draymond had to say about Buddy post-game.
Number one, he is going to go find shots, which we love. And then he's not backing down from no moment, and he hasn't seen a shot he don't love. But even more so than that, just the demeanor that he brings to the gym every single day, the demeanor that he brings to meetings, the demeanor that he brings to the plane, it's always the same. And when you got guys like that, everybody feeds off that energy. And so Buddy's been a great addition. And then his shooting, with losing Steph, it's even more important, and he's been right there for us each time we need him, so it's a great addition for us. I think, good get by Mike.
All right, now let's get into some key stats and takeaways 6 games into the season. Now keep in mind, these stats are all as of November 3rd. Now let's take a look at their defense. The Warriors are 2nd in defensive rating with a 101 rating. That's 5.6 points per 100 possessions better than the number 3 ranked Spurs. Rounding out the top 3 is OKC with a 95.1 defensive rating. Again, going into that 2nd with 101. Then you got the Spurs with a 107.4, Cleveland at 4th with a 107.7. Then you got Phoenix with a 107.9. In my season preview, I predicted the Warriors would have a 4th ranked defense. And a few weeks into the season, they're sitting at number 2. Obviously, they have a long way to go. and they haven't played some of the elite teams yet, but you have to admit it's a pretty good start. Jerry Stackhouse is essentially the Warriors defensive coordinator, and he's implemented a defensive grading system that holds players accountable, and that's competitiveness.
What's Stackhouse adding right now?
He's adding a fire and a level of accountability to us on the defensive end. You know, he came in kind of implementing some different defensive rules. And, you know, he's coming back from college. Obviously, Stack's a vet, you know, legend, 18,000 points in this league. But, you know, he spent years in college, and he came in with a couple different rules where everybody's like, but he was so confident and he was so vocal about it. And every time you got it wrong, he's teaching you, that's not it. I know you've done it that way, that's not it. And when someone comes in with that type of force, with that type of confidence and presence, as a player, you have no choice but to believe it. He's giving guys a level of confidence on the defensive end that we hadn't had, but like I said, more importantly, a level of accountability that we haven't had over the last couple years. And he's on guys every single play. He has these defensive grades that he's sending out every game. And you see guys going up to him like, it's competitive now, right? Like, you get dinged for everything, man. He, like, one small thing, your grade is dropping. So there's just a level of accountability that he's brought to that side of the ball for us, and in turn, it's creating a good defense for us.
In my season preview video, I had pushed back on my prediction that the Warriors would be a top 4 defense this season. So here's a few reasons why I think the Warriors will most definitely finish a top 5 defense this season. Number 1, Draymond's still one of the best defenders in the world. Although physically he's not the same player he was in his prime, mentally his defensive IQ is just off the charts. He has an all-time great defensive IQ to go along with his great instincts and anticipation. If you put solid defensive personnel around Draymond, he can still lead you to a top 5 defense. The next point, the Warriors have put a huge emphasis on defense in training camp, and it's been evident for these first 6 games of the season. Rotations are crisp, the team is connected defensively, communication is on point, and they're forcing a lot more turnovers. Instead of playing like the hunted, they got more of a hunter mentality. They're pressuring the ball a lot more, they're bringing that intensity, they're trying to set a tone. They just got more dog in them defensively this year. Wiggins, GP2, and Looney are all playing way better. TJD, Pods, Moody, and JK all have another year of experience. And you add DeAnthony Melton and Kyle Anderson, who are 2 great defenders. Lindy Waters in his own right is also a pretty solid defender. Not great, not elite, but he's solid, he can hold his own, and he can execute. You also subtracted CP3 and Klay from the rotation. CP3 wasn't necessarily a bad defender. I mean, he's a player that's won all defensive teams in his career. He knows how to play defense, he knows where to be on the court, and he knows how to execute. The things that holds him back on defense is his size at 6'0", and the fact that he's a geezer, bro. That's a 40-year-old man out there, bro. He can't shift them hips on defense like he used to. That lateral quickness is cooked, and he doesn't have quite the motor he used to have when he was a younger man. These are all things that aren't really his fault, but are things that could be taken advantage of. They did make it tough to play him in lineups next to Steph and or Klay. Bro, just thinking back on it, the Warriors were running lineups with Chris Paul, Steph Curry at the 2, and Klay Thompson, bro. With those 3 on the court, your point of attack defense is Swiss cheese, bro. And another factor at play, those guys are vets and former All-Stars that Kerr kind of sort of had to play a certain amount of minutes. And as for Klay, he wasn't terrible defensively, and against bigger wings, he can kind of sort of hold his own, but overall in totality, he definitely wasn't a good defender anymore. He struggled to stay in front of quicker guards. When you're playing him next to 35-year-old Steph, it's kind of sort of a big deal. You ideally want to pair a guard next to Steph that can cover for him defensively, but Klay wasn't covering for nothing, bro. In fact, he had to cover for Klay too. The Warriors had to play Klay up a position, which essentially means he was a de facto power forward defensively, which is a problem because he offers no rim protection or rebounding. On top of that, you had the mental lapses off ball. And to top it off, GP2 only played 22 games last season. In the games he did play, he wasn't himself defensively. So yeah, man, the Warriors were cooked last season on defense. When you consider all the improvements that I mentioned earlier, the Warriors got themselves the making of an elite defense. Top 5 at season's end when it's all said and done. By the way, the Warriors are 4th in offensive rating and number 1 in net rating. And that's all with Steph missing 3 out of the 6 games. Talk about a start to the season. Anyways, that's all I got for y'all. If I entertained you or you learned something new, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button. I'll holler at you on the next one. Peace.